Hi, I'm Lee. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my vlog. It's currently the end of November. It is -2 outside, and if I look out the window, it is very, very cold. And it's got me reflecting and thinking back to a happier and warmer time when I was sailing across the Atlantic with Virgin Voyages on Scarlet Lady at the start of this year. And I thought I'd make this vlog to talk through some of the things that I really enjoyed about the cruise and some of the things that I kind of reflecting back didn't enjoy as much. So let's get into it. So let's start with the very beginning of the cruise, embarkation at the Port of Miami. We were on the first embarkation slot for non-Rockstar guests, which was at 2:15 or 2:15. And we arrived at the Port of Miami at 2 o'clock, and by 2:15 we were literally stepping onto the ship. So it was super quick. The port terminal in Miami is beautiful, and it was a really, really quick and slick process to get on board. One of the things about embarkation that I'm not a fan of that Virgin do is you don't embark until after 2 o'clock for a standard guest. You lose essentially a day of your holiday vacation. Virgin have taken the decision that they don't embark until later in the afternoon. I think there's an argument to say that's because on disembarkation day, they allow guests to stay on a little bit longer than other cruise lines. But for me, I'd like to get on early. I want to start my vacation, my holiday, at the earliest opportunity. What do you think? Next up, one of the things that I loved is got to be the crew. The crew were amazing. From the moment we embarked in Miami to the moment we got off in Barcelona, the crew were exceptional. There was nothing that they wouldn't do to make the cruise fantastic. When the people who served you breakfast in the galley at the start of the day, it was quite often the same people would be serving you at the very end of the day before you went to bed. Special shout out to kind of these people that I'll put on board on the screen somewhere. By day 2 or 3, these people were remembering my name. They were remembering my drinks orders. They were greeting me by my name as they were walking past me in the ship. It wasn't like they were looking at their phones and going, "Oh, that is Lee and my husband." Just fantastic. And for a 14-night crossing over the Atlantic, they work so hard because they get very little respite that they would normally get when they were in port. So yeah, the crew, outstanding. 10 out of 10, 5 stars. 2 thumbs up to the crew. Next up, I want to talk about the Scarlet Lady herself. Now, the Scarlet Lady, she is Virgin's oldest lady. She first set sail in 2021, and when we booked the cruise last year, when we were on Resilient Lady, I was kind of nervous that as she would be the oldest ship in the fleet, whether she'd be showing some signs of aging by the time we boarded her in May. Scarlet Lady had been through dry dock at the end of last year, and some tweaks have been made to the overall layout of the ship. I'm a fan of some of them. I'm not a fan of some of the others. So the things I am a fan of, so the pool area, what Virgin have done with the pool deck, on the main pool deck, made more space for more sun lounges so that more people can enjoy the pool area. One of the things that they have done, which I'm not a fan of, is they've installed these private cabanas looking down over the pool. On the other ships, they've got set seating here which is free to use for everybody. But one of the things they did during dry dock was install these private cabanas, which are available to hire through the Virgin app for, I think it's $200 a day. And I don't see the point. Maybe I'm cheap. Well, I am cheap, but I don't see the worth in renting that space. And it's such a shame that you've got to pay such a premium for that seating. Throughout the 14 days or 14 nights that we were on the ship, I only ever saw those private cabanas used once, and that was on Scarlet Night, which, let's just say, Scarlet Night was a bit windy and it was a bit cold. So I doubt very much the people who hired them got value for money. And interestingly, Brilliant Lady, which set sail recently, hasn't had these new cabanas installed. So maybe it's just a test from Virgin to see whether there would be a success or not. My opinion is that they're not. And the old seating that was available in those spaces was much, much better. One of the other changes made during dry dock was upgrading Razzle Dazzle to Lucky Lotus by Razzle Dazzle. Now become Asian-inspired food, and we ate there twice. The food was excellent on each of the 2 occasions that we had food in there. However, maybe it's because I'm a traditionalist, maybe it's because I don't like change, but I did prefer the menu in the old Razzle Dazzle. But it does seem Virgin have taken the decision that the Razzle Dazzle restaurants on each ship will have a different theme, with Razzle Dazzle on Brilliant Lady being Spanish-inspired food, and I fully expect that when Valiant Lady and Resilient Lady go through dry dock, we might see a similar change happening on those ships as well. Next up, let's talk the entertainment. Now, Virgin pride themselves that their entertainment on board is different to traditional cruise lines, and that certainly is the case. From the spaces around the ship where the performers perform, they've made a conscious decision to be different to traditional cruise lines by not having a cruise director, and they're wanting to do things differently, and that works for the large part. Some of the things that I think let them down with entertainment, certainly on this cruise, was the Red Room. The Red Room is the closest thing that you would get to a traditional theatre on a normal cruise ship. My issue with the Red Room on this cruise is that every time we went to watch a performance in there, there were sound issues. One of the acts on board at the start of the cruise was a vocal harmony group called The Magnets. Unfortunately, when we went to watch their show, there was just something with the sound quality where the blend of their voices became grating on my ears. My husband also had the same opinion, so it's not just me. The blend of their voices, it was uncomfortable to listen to. We thought it might just be a one-off on that show, but as that was at the start of the cruise, every time we went to watch anything within the Red Room, there was sound issues, whether it was The Mentalist that was on, whether it was the dance parties that were taking place in the Red Room. Every show was impacted in some way, so much so that more than once we had to leave the show early because we were finding it so uncomfortable. And that's such a shame, and it's not a reflection on the acts that were performing, because each of the acts that we saw in there were super talented. The shows were enjoyable, but yeah, just something with the sound quality made it unbearable. Such a shame. Also on board we had other performers. We had the Kimbo Duo, we had Christian Powers, and we had Flute Loops. Whatever venue they were in, they just added a really nice ambience vibe to the venue that they're in. I really enjoyed seeing those artists perform, probably more than the production level shows that were happening elsewhere on the ship. One of the current differences with Scarlet Lady is they do the Laurel Supper Club, which is a comedy night that happens in the Manor. Now, comedy is subjective, and I fully understand that what I find funny may not be what somebody else finds funny. There was two main comedians and a compere. I wasn't a fan of the compere and host, and I wasn't a fan of one of the comedians. Their humour was definitely tailored more towards a audience from the United States, and there was definitely people from the United States who found their comedy very funny. The other comedian was from New Zealand, and he lives in the UK. His style of comedy reflected that, and I found him very funny. The food during Lol Supper Club was fantastic. The service was fantastic. If you're on board a Virgin ship and you see Lol Supper Club taking place, go along. It's something different, and it is a good night. But overall, the entertainment was fantastic. Next up, the sea days. I loved the sea days. Booking a transatlantic cruise and having a large number of sea days is probably one of the reasons why I wanted to do a transatlantic. Cruise started in Miami, and then we had 8 days at sea before we arrived in Tenerife. And I know for a lot of people, they like to be off exploring and taking adventures whilst on a cruise. And yes, I do enjoy the element of being on a ship and seeing different ports and being in a different port every day. But there's just something about a sea day where you are kind of forced to relax. There's enough events and entertainment and activities happening around the ship so that if you want to go and do something, then you can. But also, if you just want to go and lie with a book or a drink in one of the many beautiful spaces around the ship, then having 8 days at sea is the perfect opportunity to do that. One of my favourite things to do on the 8 sea days was to get my laps in by doing walks on the walking and running track up on the very top deck, but also doing laps of the promenade deck, which I don't think gets enough credit for being fantastic. You're so close to the ocean, unlike when you're on the walking track, that you get a real sense of being out at sea. It's just a really great experience. And just seeing the expanse of ocean ahead of you or to the side of you to the back of you throughout the wake. If you're going to do a Virgin cruise, make sure that not only do you do laps on the actual walking and running track, you also do laps of the promenade deck on deck, I think it's 7. I think it's on deck 7. Which camp do you sit in? Do you love a sea day? Do you hate a sea day? Let me know in the comments below. The expectations for this cruise were high. We'd previously been let down twice by Celebrity, who'd cancelled 2 attempts to sail the Atlantic. There was a very good chance I could have been disappointed. I'm so pleased to be able to sit here and go, all those expectations, all those dreams, all those hopes were completely met by Virgin, the crew, and Scarlet Lady. At the start of next year, there's a Celebrity cruise that's happening. It's a big one. I'm very excited about it. So if you want to see what happens on my next trip, hit like, hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up, 2 thumbs up if you will. But until then, bye for now.